1. Okay, so backstory. This happened around the time Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, and we were without lights for almost a year, and this started in the middle of it. My neighbor Karen was telling me and my family to apply for the government help they were giving, the $1,200 per person. I went to her house to do mine and my baby brother, who has autism. When we finished, she stopped me and started to talk about her life and how she used to live and shit like that. I was taught to respect my elders, so I was just sitting there listening to her and answering when the time demanded. Do you read novels? Yes, I do. I enjoy reading books, but since I don't work at the moment, I prefer reading online since it's easier and faster for me. They are the 1001 Noches, 1001 Nights. It's a complete series right here. At this moment, I should have said no, but she was new to the residential. She was helping us with the government help, and I had no reason to refuse. In my mind, I was like, okay, accept the books and keep them in a closet. Boom, problem solved. She gave me the books, and I was on my way. Something that I should add. My mother has health problems that she needs care for. That's why I was not working and was still living with her, so I could help her around the house and take care of her, and help my father take care of her. She has to go and get treatment like 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m., so she wakes up at 4 a.m. to get ready. She always comes back weak, tired, and in pain, so me and my dad have to be alert around 11 a.m. when she comes back. She has a driver that her medical plan provides, so we don't need to take her or bring her. To help her up to our apartment. A year later, me and my sisters finally convinced her to ask the office to transfer us to a first-floor apartment, since she always gets weak and can't climb upstairs, as before. Closer to where my older sister lives, so it's better for my mother. At this time, my boyfriend came from America, since he moved 3 years before to work, but came back due to some family BS, so he was staying with us in the apartment. Since me and him were in the process of moving together, I didn't want to be far away from my mother. I convinced him to apply for this residential, and, lo and behold, we got the old apartment we were moving from. So he was helping us move. We move everything except some things my mother didn't want anymore. So we left it behind. Months go by and me and my boyfriend got the old apartment as our own. We were moving our things from my mother's apartment to my old, new apartment. Since we had things we both didn't want, we decided right then and there during the first day of moving to put things in a box labeled trash. So I had a box filled with books that I enjoyed, but I didn't want to get rid of. And yes, the books Karen gave me were in there in that box. And there were also books my boyfriend had, which he had for one reason and one reason only, to hide money from his brothers. I put that box beside the trash box one, and continue moving things. When I was about to move the book box to the game room, my mom calls me and distracts me. At some point I put trash in the book box by accident. When we're over and done with moving and cleaning, and putting things where we want them, I tell my boyfriend to take out the trash, and so he took both of the boxes. A week goes by and Karen stops me. Hey, can I have my books back? Did you give them to me? No, I let you borrow them, and now I want them back, since I promised N3 to lend them to her. Okay, well, right now I'm going shopping to the store, so this has to wait. Okay, then. I left for the store, come back and look for the books. I can't find them. I asked my boyfriend, and he says he hadn't seen them since we moved. I'm trying to remember. I call my mom and ask her if those books are there. She says that I took them, and she saw me put trash on top of the box. Which reminds me of the whole situation with the boxes, so I told my boyfriend, Babe, I think we threw away boxes with the books. Fuck, I had money in those books. Motherfucker, how much? I don't know, maybe $700? After all that, I tell my neighbor what happened and try to explain. She started to cry and leaves before I can even finish. 2 days later, she stops me. How dare you throw away the books my great-great-grandmother gave to me? You have to pay up. Okay. Bear in mind, she never told me they were gifts from her great-great-grandmother. You're so irresponsible. How dare you? Those books are priceless to me, and you have to pay me back. She doesn't even let me get a word in and storms off. To be honest, I felt so bad I told my boyfriend, who is the only one working. He told me that I can try and get it from Amazon and see if they have it, which they do. The full series, but in English, which I didn't care, since she knows English. I stopped her and told her what was up. But then I can't get it now, since all the money we have at the moment is for rent, water, and light, and my boyfriend was making almost $600 every 2 weeks, since we just moved, We need to pay for the fridge, washing machine, you know, the things every house needs to work. So it will take some time. And I was in the process of getting a job. A week after that talk, my father suffered a stroke. Since my 3 older sisters work and have children, I decided not to find work and be there 24/7 for my mother when she needs me. I even told her I can move back, which she refused. She said, "You live 2 minutes away and can come in the morning on the days of my treatment. Take care of him and go back home and take care of your man." I talked to Karen and told her this, that I won't be able to get her the books, that at the moment I'm worrying more about my dad, but I would give her the books. I don't know when. She gave me this look of hatred that I ignore and say, "Okay," and she left. Cool as a plan. With that, the problem was solved. Since I got both my parents with poor health, all my mind is making sure they're okay. So right now, I don't give a fuck about no books. Months go by. One Monday morning, I was preparing to go to my mom's apartment when I opened the door at 4 a.m. to see a note under the door. Weird. I pick it up and walk to my mom's place and read the letter. I don't remember what it says, but yes, it's from Karen. The letter says that I'm so irresponsible that those books are priceless, that I should either give her new books or give her $600, which they cost her. When I read that part, I was like, didn't she say they were a gift from her great whatever? My mom asked me what happened. I showed her the letter. She told me to ignore her. She's annoying. She stopped me yesterday bad-mouthing you and that you should pay her. After that, I just threw away the letter. Right now, I didn't have the mind to care about her. This kept going on for weeks. She's leaving letters under my door, me not reading them, since I know what they say. One day, my mother told me to give her the letters. Since I have not read them, she did. And let me tell you something, whatever she wrote in those letters got my mother, my Christian mother, to curse. Let me tell you something about my mother. She has this bloody hobby of writing rules on paper when she sees that me and my siblings aren't behaving as we should, how she considers we should. So we would have like 7 to 20 papers taped around rulers for all of us. Some saying things like, if you see the kitchen, clean your dishes, or if you see a toy laying outside of the room, that toy will go to heaven. So yeah, she enjoys writing. She asked me for a pen and paper and started to make her... No joke. She literally wrote 5 pages, both sides of the paper. Since I was born and raised under those papers, I knew those papers were packed. My mom said, "Here, go to our house and leave these under her door. Let's see how she likes it when she receives letters. And you better leave that letter at midnight so she can see them in the morning," which I did. The day after, I got a cardboard letter with huge words saying, "How old are you to have your mother handle your matter? Be grown and give me back what you owe." To be honest, I let my mother handle this situation for 2 reasons only. One, I already told her I won't be able to give her those books back since my situation with my parents. 2, I know that if I go and talk to her, I would, for lack of better words, tell her no and go join her great-grandmother. I can't deal with people being over my case over something we'd agreed on. She kept bothering not just me, but also my sisters. Sister 1 ignored her, Sister 2 told me to give it back so she could leave her alone, and Sister 3 told her to go fuck herself. She even told my niece, which she also ignored. One day, I told my boyfriend if we could buy the books so she could leave me alone already. I'm stressed and tired. I'm dealing with a man who had a stroke, and if you don't know, my father lost his memory, so for the first 3 months, we, his children and his wife, were strangers to him. It took my grandfather to come and confirm with him that we are in fact his family, so my mind has no fucks given. One day she stopped me and started to abuse me in front of my neighbors. I had enough. Last night my dad had another stroke and I had to stay in the hospital with him, as my mother was not allowed to because the hospital and nurses and doctors know her, and she always goes when she feels bad. So I stayed with my dad all day and all that morning, and I came back from the hospital tired, sad and stressed, so yeah, she got me at a bad moment. "There you are, give me the money for my books. They're so priceless." Shut up, I don't give a fuck about your fucking books. Which I didn't ask for in the first place. You gave them to me. You didn't loan them to me. They were my property. I just came back from the fucking hospital after my father suffered another stroke. Forgive me for caring more about my father than your so-called priceless books. You know what? I'm done. I'm not giving you those books. Nor buying them, nor giving you money for them. Fuck you, leave me alone. And don't you dare say shit to my family. I stormed off. Let me tell you, everyone around was dumbfounded, since, in their mind, I'm the calm and least troublesome of my siblings, which is not true. I just don't look for trouble. And since I'm a hermit and don't go out to socialize. Karen told me on the office workers, which they can't do anything about. She told my neighbors. They saw what happened and know my situation and my family's situation, so they didn't think badly of me. Neighbor 1 said, "She'd always come and tell us how irresponsible you are and that she thinks you abuse your boyfriend since you don't work and he has to pay for everything." I receive help from the government, which I got the first $1,200 I put in my bank, and I also got $1,400 later, which I used to buy the appliances that we needed, so... Neighbor 2 said, "Ignore her, don't give her anything. She told us she found those books for free in the library." Let me explain. In Puerto Rico, there are libraries that would put books on a table in front of the building that they're planning to get rid of, and they give a change to people if they want them. She told her she found those books there. No lies, I didn't trust her. Just ignore her. Still at it now. Every time she sees me, she will say, "Where are my books?" I ignore her. Nor do I give her the time of day. The last letter she sent to me is in my boyfriend's hands, and he says that if she ever sends another one, he will file a complaint on her. Yes, we went and asked the office workers what they said, and that if she sends another one, we can't file one. Until now, she's not sent another, or at least I haven't seen one. 2. So just to be clear, I'm not sure how old I was when this happened, because it was a few years ago. So, a few years ago, my grandma and grandpa took my sister and I to an Ariana Grande concert. It was going well till about 2 songs in, when a group of about 8 girls showed up. They looked like they could be in their early and mid-20s. As they started to sit down, one of them walked over to my grandma. She then yelled at my grandma to get up and move. Apparently they had 7 seats right next to each other, and one towards the end of the row. This was about 7 seats from her sister. So anyways, it was apparently the lady's sister's birthday that day, and she wanted to sit next to her. She said that if my grandma didn't get up, she would call security and say she was threatening her. My grandma was in her seat, so were my sister and my grandpa and I. The lady yelled for my grandma to move to the seat at the end, which was separated by 2 other people. She started to call security because my grandma wouldn't move out of the seat, even though my grandma paid for it. After my grandpa realized what was going on, he was pissed and didn't want to get kicked out for obvious reasons. This is when he decided to just move, but the lady who was next to him was nice and just sat at the end because it was still next to the guy she came with, and so that my grandpa could still be next to us. I feel like my grandma would have gotten up the first time if the lady explained and didn't yell at her, but still. I'm still thankful for the lady who moved to the other side of the guy she was with, so my grandpa could be next to us. Unfortunately for my grandma, she was stuck next to the rude lady for the rest of the concert. It seemed like my grandma enjoyed the concert, though. So this is how it happened. The lady walks up to my grandma. "Move!" "Excuse me?" "Move, I want to sit there." "I'm sorry, but I paid for the seat and I'm with my grandkids and husband." "Just move, it's my sister's birthday and I want to sit by her and our friends." "Do you have another seat you can sit in?" "At the end, but it's too far." "Well, I'm sorry, but I paid for these 4 seats because they're next to each other." "Move, or I'll tell security you threatened me and took my seat." "Look, lady, I didn't do either of those 2, and I feel uncomfortable leaving either of these 2, my sister and I, to sit next to a stranger." "Security! Security, help!" Security didn't hear her. She looks back to my grandma. "Move, bitch!" She looks back to me. "Tell her to move." I was a small, sensitive child. Quiet, too. So I got scared when she yelled at me. Grandma said, "Please don't speak to her." Grandpa told her to just stop yelling and said, "Deb," my grandma, "I'll just go to the end." The nice lady heard what happened and said, "Sir, I could sit at the end if you would like me to take it, since it's still next to my boyfriend." "Are you sure?" "Hurry, you're ruining the concert! Security!" "Perfectly fine, just let me grab my purse. Thank you so much." We all moved down a seat. "See, it wasn't that hard, bitch." I really wouldn't have remembered this so well if it wasn't how the lady was to everyone. 3. I flew for the first time this holiday season, and it was quite the experience. On the way to our destination, we got lucky and flew Delta, but on the way back, I had the distinct pleasure of flying Spirit. Never again. We had a layover in Vegas and had been flying all morning, so I understand by the time everyone got on this flight, they were tired. Let me paint the picture for you. I was sitting in the middle seat. My husband was sitting in the middle seat, and a chill dad is sitting beside my husband. In front of him is his chill wife and their 2-year-old daughter, is sitting in the middle seat in front of my husband. The entitled guy is sitting in the window in front of me. For most of the flight, we don't pay attention to this guy. I'm watching a movie, my husband is napping, and chill dad and chill wife are doing a terrific job keeping their chill child occupied on a plane. No tantrums from this 2-year-old. Entitled guy is moving around a lot, putting his hands over the back of his seat into my space and making me a little uncomfortable with how much of the child's seat he is leaning over onto, so I can only imagine how the chill wife felt. Our first issue with entitled guy came when we had about 30 minutes left in our flight. I had headphones in, watching the last little bit of a movie, and my husband is dozing on my shoulder, when entitled guy turns around and stares right at me. "Stop kicking my seat." Obviously, I didn't hear him and go to remove my headphones. I'm sorry, what did? "Stop kicking my seat." Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was, "Don't kick my seat." At this point, my husband gets involved. "We got it, dude. Turn around." "Don't kick my seat." Turn around. It was a little tense, but entitled guy turns around. Now I was a little worried. I was distracted, so honestly I didn't know I'd been swinging my leg and not realizing it. I typed a quick message on my phone to my husband to ask if I had been kicking entitled guy's seat. He assures me I didn't. Fast forward to the end of our flight. We had gotten in early, but they weren't ready for us, so we ended up waiting for another 30 minutes before they let us off the plane. Everyone is tired and is ready to get home after some hellish holiday travel. Because we had to wait so long, not too many people are getting out of their seats just to stand and wait, especially the young couple in front of us still trying to entertain their 2-year-old. We slowly creep our way from the window. Cool Dad is out in the aisle gathering all of the young family's things while the child stands in the aisle with her mother, sitting down in her aisle seat. Entitled Guy is getting way too close for comfort, but my husband and I try to ignore it, and it looks like Cool Wife is trying to ignore it as well. My husband ends up just getting out into the aisle. Keep in mind, Entitled Guy and I are still in the middle seats, as we had the window seats to start with. Entitled Guy decides that he wants to open up the overhead container now, even if he has no way of getting to his bag. He slams the container open from where he is hovering over the child and mother and clocks my husband in the head in the process. My husband gives this guy the dirtiest look and bites his tongue. Entitled Guy then reaches over and touches my husband, during the height of the variant crisis. "Sorry, buddy. Did I get you?" Husband is still very much biting his tongue. "Yeah, you did." Entitled Guy then proceeds to push past the young family as soon as they open the doors, and make sure to try to get past everyone as we exit. We did manage one small victory against this travel companion. I noticed that this gentleman ended up behind us on the way down the escalator to baggage claim. Could me and my husband have gone single file down this escalator so Entitled Guy could pass us? Yes. Did we? No, we did not. 4. So a little background. I was on my way home from my first appointment with a psychiatrist to get an assessment on my mental health. I was wearing one of my favorite necklaces, which is a long, thin silver pendant with the shape of the symbol of the Deathly Hallows from Harry Potter. I was wearing this necklace because I can fidget safely with the pendant when I'm nervous or need some form of stimming in public. I was also wearing a cool mask of mine which has a skeletal jaw on it that glows in the dark. On the bus home, there was this lady who kept looking at me over and over. Even with her masked face, I could tell she was giving strange looks. I figured she was looking weird at me due to my mask, which was actually an accident, as I usually wear my bear snout mask in public, not my skull jaw. But I was running late when I left, and that was the first mask I grabbed. And when I got off the bus, it turns out that was the same stop she had to get off, and that is where she suddenly started talking to me. "You know, Satanism is going to doom your soul forever." I got confused at first, so I asked her, "Satanism?" "Yes, you are obviously a Satanist wearing that kind of symbolism in public." "Ma'am, are you talking about the skull jaw on my mask?" "No, I'm talking about that pendant of yours." "You mean the Deathly Hallows?" "I knew it. Death! Satanism!" "Ma'am, this is from Harry Potter." "That is a children's book. You're an adult." I'm at a loss for words at the audacity here when some stranger butts in saying, Ma'am, phantoms are not age-restricted. Even if it was a satanic symbol, it would not have been a crime. Let people wear and do what they want. If it does not hurt you, it does not concern you." The lady got red as a tomato and stormed off, and the kind stranger got on a bus before I could say thanks. But yes, this was a confusing but funny encounter. 5. I have worked in the television broadcasting industry for over 25 years. A large part of that time in various master control rooms. I have often felt that trying to explain how master control works, even to people in the industry, is a bit like trying to explain quantum physics to a 2-year-old. Some people just don't get it. In the simplest terms, master control is where all the content, programs, commercials, promotions, news control rooms, satellite feeds, and network feeds are all assembled in a computerized playlist and then fed out to whatever transmitter, cable feed, satellite they're going to. It is the last step before the signal leaves a building, and master control operators are ultimately responsible for what happens to that signal. Because everything that is sent out is predetermined by a program log and playlist, master control operators have essentially no leeway in changing what gets sent out to broadcast. With the exceptions of missing content, a typically common occurrence with commercials and promotions, or with the loss of a control room or satellite feed. For stations that are affiliates of one of the broadcast networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, the master control operator has zero control over the feed that comes from the network. This incident takes place roughly 15 years ago, so some details are lost to time. The station where this happened is located in a major southeastern U.S. city that is well known for having a lot of transplants from other parts of the country. Fall in the U.S. is college football season. At the time, I was working weekend afternoons and early evenings, which is when these games would be televised by the network. The teams playing these games were typically not local to the area, so I generally only paid enough attention to them in order to do my job. One particular Saturday while I was working there was a game that had turned into a bit of a blowout and was pretty much a foregone conclusion by the fourth quarter. Many times when this type of situation occurs, the network producers will choose to switch to another game that has a closer score or has more potential to affect rankings. Unless you're a die-hard fan of one of the teams, a blowout game can be a ratings killer, as people will switch stations to watch something more interesting. As neither of the teams in the game that was on while I was working was local, I did not find this too unusual at all. A few minutes after the network switched the feed, the control room phone rang. On the caller ID, I could see it was the newsroom. "Master Control," I answered. "We got a call from someone about changing the game that's on air. I'm going to forward him to you." Now, one of the reasons that I enjoy working in the technical side of television is that I don't have to deal with the public at large. I am not a customer service-oriented person. During weekday business hours, viewer calls were handled by the station receptionist. But during all other times, outside calls were forwarded to the newsroom assignment desk. Since this call had something to do with what was on air at the time, the person at the assignment desk thought that this was something for Master Control to deal with. "Okay," I replied, not understanding what this was going to be about. The call is forwarded, and after giving the appropriate greeting, the gentleman on the other end begins his tirade. You guys were just showing the big game and you changed it. Why did you change it?" Now, I can't say definitively that this person was drunk, but there was a certain quality to his voice. "I'm sorry, sir, that was changed by the network." "Well, change it back." "I'm sorry, but I can't do that. The network makes that decision." "Don't you have satellites? Change it on the satellite." "Yeah, I'm not allowed to do that." "Just change it, man." Even if I had the authority, I wouldn't even know where to look for it. I don't have the coordinates for that. "I know you know how to change it, so just do it." This conversation went on for several minutes in vain, him getting more belligerent and me getting more irritated. It clearly had devolved into a circular discussion, and I was tired of trying to come up with new ways to say, "I'm not going to do what you want." "Look, man, just change it back." "Listen, even if it was possible for me to do that, I can't since I would get fired, and I'm not risking my job for your stupid football game." I promptly slammed the phone down, took a breath, and then turned to my coworker who was sitting nearby and had only heard my side of the conversation. "So, how was that?" He smiled a little and said, "Yeah, probably a little too much." The fallout. I wrote a brief, sanitized version of what happened to my supervisor that evening, but there were no repercussions for me. A few days later, all the master control operators received an email stating that the newsroom was not to forward viewer calls to the control room, and instead direct them to the programming department's voicemail. Remember, folks, just because it's called master control doesn't mean the type of people working there control much of anything. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 54. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and send in stories for use in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do share the video around, and if you have a story of your own you'd like to send in, you can send it along to kingofthecities@gmail.com. That's kingofthecities@gmail.com. And you can find that email on the screen that you're not looking at right now, and in the description of every video. Alright, let's see. This is Wednesday. My brain woke up thinking it was Tuesday, but no, it is really Wednesday, I swear. Let's see. Hellfreezer's question of the day. Streaming services. Right, I mentioned this because I recently cancelled my Netflix subscription because they don't have enough content that I watch anymore. They keep losing things, and they're charging too much. Price is going up £2 for me this year, or it would be had I not cancelled it. So, do you think we're heading towards a world where there's just infinite streaming services and people pick and choose what they want and ultimately nobody makes much money? Or will they eventually realize the best way to do it is kind of what Amazon does, where you subscribe to a service, then you have additional add-on channels for a smaller price? Please comment below. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.